Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
1 second, you're enjoying your day off. The next, your phone buzzes. A window's been broken at home. You're miles away. In 1 second, everything can change. That's why ADT Security Systems can monitor your home 24/7. They're backed by the most company-operated monitoring centers in the industry, so you're always supported during an emergency. When every second counts, count on ADT. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
Hello, and welcome back to Women of Color in Intimate Conversation. Today, we are switching things up as we on occasion do, and we have I'm going to call it a special guest because it's somebody that I connected with on LinkedIn. He's invited me to some things on the East Coast. I was supposed to go to some things on the East Coast. We haven't met up yet, but soon. It's going to happen soon. So today we have Dontae T. Muse. He is a cultural producer, the former owner of Above Art Studios in New Brunswick, co-founder of the Heart Festival, a best-selling author on artpreneurship. I love that. And now serves as a director of artist relations for the Harlem Fine Arts Show and the Centennial program manager for Newark Symphony Hall. His work sits at the intersection of culture, creativity, and legacy. So Dontae, tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay. So I am a creative and an artist myself in a few different mediums. Started with writing and instrumentation, as a kid, and kind of always been in the arts, but always alongside of what people would consider more stable, careers and pathways and all of that. And a lot of times people understand that it's not the easiest to make a consistent income through the arts. So, they try to guide you through other means. So went to school for my master's is in public administration. So now I'm doing arts administration. But it kind of took a little while for me to combine everything properly and figure out what kind of my purpose was.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the path of folks of a certain age, if you will. A lot of creatives wanting to go down that route, and at the time, there probably wasn't a lot, as you stated, there wasn't a lot of ways to make money. But today, there's so many different ways when you're in art. Because as you mentioned, I kind of dropped your resume, and then you mentioned how you are a creative yourself. And so there's so many different paths that you can take, gallerist, a curator, artist, and even more. So we'll kind of talk about some more things. So I want to set the tone. And then setting the tone, I'm kind of introducing something that I'm working on right now. It's just a evolution of how I empower women of color, but specifically Black women. So the conversation is about choosing yourself, trusting your gifts, and building legacy through creativity, values that sit at the heart of the Dream Lifestyle Collective, which is a community that I'm building for Black women 50 plus. So let's kind of, go back in the day. When did you first realize that the traditional path, career path wasn't your path? Like you kind of touched on that, but when did you like say, you know what, I can, go back into art? Like what was that catalyst?
Um, well, I had I got fired. That
Oh,
was a
okay.
catalyst.
Right.
That was a catalyst.
Right.
Yeah, right. So actually at this time I was in the automotive industry, and I actually had took a vacation about 10 days out the country, and was getting real sun and real food and everything, and it
Mhm.
was like all types of, I guess they call them downloads now, whatever, but just different revelations was happening to me, and I could feel changes happening to me. And actually, I that's when I stopped eating meat. All at the same time. Like I came back, I couldn't eat, the food anymore. Like just so many things was just happening. When I got back, I was in a kind of like in a cloud, and the general manager, because I was a manager at the dealership, but the general manager came and had a conversation with me, and my whole demeanor was just kind of like, I don't care, because that's kind of like it
Right.
was. I was in the space. Like I wasn't like, disrespectful or anything like that, but everything about me was just like, yeah, all right, bro, whatever. And then like 5 minutes later, which I already knew, one of the other managers called me in the office and had the conversation with me. And that was it. I was done. So at that point I was like, you know what? Let me do my own thing. Let me be in a position to create opportunities for other people. And that was 2016. That's when I opened the art gallery. Um, and initially wasn't planning to open the art gallery. I was in music at the time, and me and one of my partners were doing like getting artists like production deals and stuff like that, kind of getting them like prepped for labels before
Hmm.
they actually got to the labels and got like their deals and stuff like that. So we were doing shows with the showcases for music and all that behind that. And we were looking for a space to continue doing that, that we can actually control versus renting other spaces from everybody else and putting money in everybody else's pocket, and then we were coming from, managing nightclubs and being, promoters and everything, and again, just making everybody else rich,
Hmm.
and not being able to have any real control over things, witnessing, price gouging when it was our time and our nights and all of that, like, drinks of $12 and $14 and on our nights, and they $8 and $10 every other night is like, it's just
Mm.
ridiculous, and just being tired of being taken advantage of, and again not having a voice or control. So we looked to open up our own space, and during that process we ran across one of our other brothers, and he's an artist, a painter, and he was speaking about opening up a gallery space. So we had the bright idea to combine all together and open up a gallery, and then the artist actually, like a month before we were going to open up the gallery, decided he just wanted to do his own thing. Um, but at this point, I had already told everybody I was opening up an art gallery. So me being who I am, I got to open up this art gallery because I done, went and
Oh,
told
that.
everybody this. Yeah, I can't look crazy,
Right.
So only way I'm not going to deliver on the promise is like, it was absolutely no way, I couldn't do it. So I'm going to figure out how to make this happen. Um, so that started the journey, and I did a crash course, in the visual arts. Ran across legendary artist who I only had him for 2 years. He passed away in 2018, but he became a mentor and kind of expedited, I guess, my legitimacy in this space. There were so many people trying to work with him, and the fact that he was, working with me, um, just kind of opened up a few doors. Um, and I was in the art space, and just kind of grew from there. So I had to become a professional. Just in Before we opened the gallery, me and my partner that opened it up, we went to, I think it was something like 16 galleries in like 15 days or something, including driving from Jersey to North Carolina to see a grand opening of a black art gallery, just to see, what the flavor was going to be, what we might like, how we might present things differently in our way. Just really took a crash course and, became I guess at least a semi-professional from there.
I love that. And so there's several things that I want to touch on, but I need to rewind back to this trip. Where did you go? What island? Because some of us might need to go there as well, so we can come back and just be totally renewed.
So I went to Colombia.
Okay.
Um, I went to Bogota for
Mm,
3 days, and then I went to Medellin for 3 days, and then I went to Cartagena for 4 days.
okay. Okay. And I know you went to Gethsemane when you were in Cartagena, the art
Um,
area.
you know what? I don't even recall. I might
Oh
have.
no.
I think I went through everything over there.
Okay. So if you don't remember, then you probably didn't go because the area is it's their artsy area. It's near outside of like the old area, like where that fort is, but it's where they
Yeah, they
have
got the
lots
old
of
castle and
murals.
the new. Yeah.
You said what you
Okay, I,
say?
I remember seeing them a long mural.
Yes,
But
lots
I
of
was in
murals.
I was in both the old and the new because I was out and I
Okay.
was there 4 days. So yeah, so I spent time on both of the
Okay.
pieces.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's beautiful. Okay, so it's Colombia. So for those who are listening or watching, if you want to be renewed, then you need to take a trip to Colombia. And the three destinations that Dante visited, Bogota, Medellin, and Cartagena. So you want to renew? You want to come back like Ari, like man, it's all good. Like, hey, I'm cool with that. That's where you need to go, it sounds like. So the things that I wanted to bring up because you mentioned them and they're so very important. So one of the first things that stood out to me is that you said you wanted to create opportunities for other people, which I absolutely love. The other piece is you wanted to own something, right? So I'm hearing that as wealth, building wealth, which could turn into generational wealth. And I also heard you say making it happen. Like you're gonna make it happen unless there's just no absolute way to do that. And we know that really with a lot of things, there's always some kind of way. It's just a matter of how much effort do we want to put into it? Like how many no's are we willing to hear before we get
Mm.
to that yes? And then the other thing that I wanted to kind of stretch out a little bit is legitimacy. So with the legitimacy, you said that this artist, he was a coveted artist. He said yes to you, so that kind of puts you on the map. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
so even then originally, it took him a little bit before I actually was able to exhibit him. But just the fact I was able to call him my mentor when a lot of people wanted to, because he still made me work for it.
Mm,
But yeah, he didn't just totally back me and bring all his audience and all of that stuff, anything like that. Mostly what he did was help me avoid pitfalls, you know, um, some traps I could have got caught up in, not dealing with certain people and then maybe only in certain capacities if I really needed something, you know, because you kind of can't trust everybody to give everybody the
yeah.
responsibilities and all that as well. You'll be caught looking bad at the end, even though you gave somebody else that bag, you the one that looked bad at the end. So a lot of things like that was really what he helped on. Um, the When we were doing our grand opening, we didn't have any art up until 2 days before the grand opening.
Okay. It
We
happens.
Yeah, we literally had no art. Took us a couple months to renovate, and it was like I think we spent like 22,000 renovating, getting the space ready and everything. But when we did the opening, we had went and found artists originally on Instagram, and we had contacted them, and we're essentially asking them to trust us, and they didn't know us from anything. We don't have this background in the art space. We're art dealers with no collectors list or anything like that. So we had to convince the artists, and I'll never forget. And I think, and I know, it's because how it worked out, that it happened. We had three artists that were like willing to come in and meet with us and give us conversation and everything. And they came down to the gallery to check out the space and all of that, and they all came pretty much the same time, and that
Mm. Oh,
wasn't planned. So it was like them seeing each other and checking out each other's work and seeing how legit each other were, was like,
yeah.
okay, if this artist at this caliber is willing to be in this, then I'm going to be in this too. And they kind of legitimized each other and was like, and then it all came together. Then once I got two of them ended up being like part of my five, what I would call like my core artists, really, that I pretty much had in every exhibition for the first couple of years. Two of those gentlemen were in there, and from there it's like everybody else kind of fell in the line from there. So yeah, but we were really prepared to just go out and just buy a bunch of art and then hope
Mm.
we could resell it, at that point, because you ain't got no gallery with no art. So I'm like, at this point, what we gonna do? So we had a contingency plan, if it had to happen. But it worked out.
And so from that, what I'm taking, they say it takes that one yes, and it sounds like you got two yeses at the same time, which just open up some more yeses. So that's something that's important for us to, to hone in on. It takes that one, and you had that backup, and the backup wasn't needed, but you were prepared, right? You
Mhm.
weren't ready to just throw in. You knew that you had a destination and that it takes different routes to get to that destination, and in this particular case you didn't necessarily have to go down that other route. So was this the Above Art Studios that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so what did you want it to represent for the culture?
Um, you know what? When I started, it was really a lot more of a selfish thing.
Mm.
It kind of became what it became and opened up a lot of doors. I really just wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it.
Hey, that's
Um,
me.
you know, yeah, like I started throwing parties, pay parties at 11 years old.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, it started early. It started DJing at 12. So when I wasn't throwing my own parties, I was, getting paid to DJ and stuff at other people's parties. Like, and then I was throwing parties all through college. Like, I got partied out kind of early, then we was in the nightclubs after that and everything. So I was tired of clubs. I wanted an alternative for entertainment, something
Hmm.
cool, funky fresh to do, something safe to do. We never had to pat people down, when they were coming through our doors or the guy, whatever. Like, it just wasn't that type of energy, based on the things we wanted to do. So it's like, if I wanted to hear poetry, then I have a spoken word night. If I wanted to, um, both support and become more acquainted with and sample some new brands or whatever. I have a black wine tasting. I'll do like whatever it is I want to see. I'll do. I have a body painting event if I want to see some models get painted for my birthday. We call that the birthday suit party. I did that for a few years for my birthday. It's like, all right, what I
Right.
want to do, I want to have fun. I'm going to do it. I'm going to promote it and market it. And if you into this type of stuff too, come
Come
down,
on
enjoy
through.
it. We're going to have fun together.
Right.
But, I kind of set it up because this is what I want to do,
Hmm.
so it benefited other people and everything, but it really was admittedly from a more selfish kind of standpoint where it generated from. It's
Hey, and
like,
I'm all about being selfish, right? I think that we don't care of ourselves
mm,
enough. We're continuing, we're doing stuff for other people, and we lose ourselves. And then when you like, oh, what's your dream? Like, what are your goals? Like, you have to really think about it. And sometimes you don't even have answers. So I'm all about self, right? Because when you do take care of self, like you said, other people do benefit from that. Other
mm-hmm,
people like that. Other people want to get
yeah,
naked and paint their bodies.
yep, yeah,
Like what you said, they want to do that. But what's really standing out to me, so I'm fairly new to the art scene. So I would say I started collecting right before the world shut down. So it was that the Saturday that the first Saturday in March of 2020, I
mm,
purchased my first piece by a Black African like a Black woman artist in Houston, Linda Simeon Kelly. So I bought my first piece then, and then I started collecting. I bought several more from her, commissioned a couple, then started, getting some other artists. Then fast forward, I attended what we have here in Detroit, the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club, which is every week they meet for artists, collectors, those who are interested in art. And so the artists get to show their pieces and they're for sale, right? And so I started buying more of that art, right? And then I was like, well, what can I do in this space? Like, how can I make money so I can buy more art? And so I learned about some of the things that like you were doing 8, 9 years ago, which I know it had to be harder then than it is now. Would you agree with that? Or tell me about your experience now versus then.
Um, as far as the actual selling of the art,
No, just just every like all the things that you were doing back then. People are doing today. But to
yeah.
me, I'm just thinking again because I'm new to it. I'm thinking it's easier to do those things today than it was back then because my understanding is a lot of people didn't really buy into literally and figuratively, mentally didn't buy into Black art. So it could just be me, it could just be where I'm at. I don't know. But like, how was your experience just doing the things that
No,
you do?
yeah, it was. Yeah, I would definitely say it would be more difficult to do it, back in 2016 than it would be to do it in 2026 for sure. There was a piece that we had to be cognizant of in the educating of our audiences,
Mm-hmm.
um, in terms of quality, um, really justification of the prices.
Mm-hmm.
There's not they shouldn't be arbitrary. It really should be some type of formula into why a piece costs what it costs.
Yeah.
Um, and getting over sticker shock, getting them used to payment plans. Not that we wasn't used to payment plans, but I don't think anybody really, we know those,
Right,
but I don't
layaway.
think really, yeah, I don't think really anybody thought of like payment plans for a piece of art. Like, they'll do ones for some Balenciagas or some red bottoms or something, put those on layaway. But
Right.
when it come to art, there's a little bit different.
Like,
So
oh, I can't wear that. No, nobody's gonna see
yeah,
that.
exactly. Nobody, yeah, who gonna see
Who
that to
gonna
see
see
that
that?
I'm spending this type of money? Like, what does this say
Mm-hmm.
about, because it's in your house. So only the people
Yep.
that's gonna see it is coming in there type of thing. You're not letting anybody in your house. So yeah, that's you can't kind of wear it as a badge, versus, them $500 sneakers you just put on your feet. So yeah, it was a piece in that as well. We got a lot of things actually sold through, um kind of like impulse, like
Okay.
people just really being in the space. It wasn't a whole lot of us going to art galleries, 16, 17, 18, 2019. Like, wasn't a lot of us going to art galleries like we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's groups around, visiting art and all of that stuff. Like, it is a lot easier now. Um so I had to get people there based off of the events. Like, I would say
Okay.
half of the people that was coming to the gallery didn't know it was an art gallery until they found out about the events. Some of them might have,
Right.
found out like, oh, where is this at? Oh, above our studios. What is that? And then they went and looked at. Oh, some of them just saw the address and they came and walked around like, wow, what is this? Like, I had no idea. And I'm like, but if I would have just said come to art gallery, they wouldn't have came. But if I'm like,
Right.
come for this event, they'll come to the event. It just happens to be hosted in the art gallery.
I
So I
love
had
that.
to get, creative
Yeah.
and trying to figure that out, because especially in the beginning, like, selling art wasn't our main source of income. It really was the events, and the events helped sell the art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just basically off of numbers, because if I'm bringing in, 200 to 300 people in a month, through events, that's a lot of opportunities for people to buy art. Most art galleries aren't getting 200 to 300 people come through a month to look at art.
Yeah.
um so that definitely was able to help. So just the volume in that, so just figuring out creative ways, um to make things happen, to make the artists happy that their pieces are selling, they're gaining collectors and everything. um and just continue kind of the growth from there.
No, and you know what? And I love that because for me, I was like, oh, I want art in accessible places, right? I want that when you go to restaurants or to the coffee shop and different places, you happen to look up like, oh, there's art. And it's not just there. Oh, it's accessible. Like I can buy that piece. And I think I first saw that at Hilltop Cafe, a coffee cafe in LA. Is Issa Rae is one of the partners. So in her coffee shop, she has this beautiful art all on the walls, and you can buy it. And so that was my first time seeing that. And so, what, 3 or 4 years later, when I did my first event, it was in a coffee shop. And it was basically because of that. I was inspired by Issa to do that. So you had a gallery. However, like you said, you had events that were going on and art just happened to be on the wall. So yes, we definitely do have to get creative and out of the box with how we present art to people. Because my goal is I do want to create, inspire 100 Black art collectors. So I would love, so that's been my goal or, my thought for a while, for the last couple of years. And so I would love to, still see that happen. And so you are giving some ideas. So for people who are interested in having a gallery or, doing events and infusing it with art, like listen to what Dontae is saying and, hearing from his legacy in this space as an artpreneur. So love it, love it, love it. So what
Yeah,
did this space, you wanted to say something?
um
What?
now I was just gonna say just making sure whatever it is you decide that goal is going to be, um you you work backwards and top down from there. So everything, even the run the show for your events, have to lean towards that. So like we intentionally put time, before the events, like a cushion, for people to have opportunity to look at the art, so they're not just coming in and out, you know, intermissions, announcements. Sometimes we do, raffles and everything around it. So just kind of being intentional with everything, knowing your audience and kind of how you need to guide or goad them, to make something happen.
Yeah. So, the podcast is about empowering women, right? And so, whatever we talk about, I want to make sure that, that the audience is left with those. And so that's why I've been, pulling out some things. But what I want to kind of talk about is what did holding that space, being in this space, being, having your gallery, um, the experiences that you had these past 8+ years, what did it teach you about legacy?
Um, that it takes consistency in what it is that you do. So you have to decide what it is you want to do. So you can be consistent in doing it. And that you have control over it. Um, Even if you decide you want your legacy to be something different at some other point in time, as long as you're now consistent towards that, at some point you'll start to be known for that, and that'll be also become part of your legacy. Um, but ultimately, it really means how you touch other people, the effect you have on other people, what are other people going to say or remember about you when you're not here. That's what legacy is.
Yeah.
The stories that come up, when they're at your services sending you away or something happens, they see a certain, show or a song or something like you come to mind, like that's legacy. So ultimately, what do you want people to say about you? What is that you do? And even though it's truthful, but it's also slightly playful when I say, I'm ever doing everything like selfishly, but I do um almost always think about how this is also going to affect other people because, I can't as my mother always tells me, I don't live in a silo. I'm not on an island, you don't just do things where they just affect you. Um so I think about, like, in terms of empowering women, like pretty much every Women's History Month, we did a women's exhibition. We did one of our probably best attended exhibitions, which actually wasn't during Women's History Month. We did a exhibition for was I think it was called Muslima, but it was all black women, Muslim women artists. Um, like, and I know, when art was sold, hearts were touched, and relationships were really nurtured through that. And I know that did a lot. And at some point, you know, some of those 13 women artists that were part of that, or anybody that came to do that, is going to remember that. Like that's legacy.
Absolutely. And then another thing you mentioned about the approach that you took with your events, that's the approach we can take with life as well. Figure out like the end result, where you want to get to, and back into it, right? And that's also part of legacy, what you just talked about. That's part of events. That's also part of just winning at life. Just what is it that you want out of life? There is this book called About Damn Time, and it's by Arlen Hamilton. And what stood with me out of that book is she said, write your own headline. So you just said, like, at the end of your life, what people are going to say about you, like, write your obituary, write your, that in an article or something. What do you want people to say about you? What do you want to be known for? What legacy do you want to leave? And then back into that, live your life to make that happen. So let's shift into your writing and educating. So your books have helped so many emerging artpreneurs. What inspired you to start writing?
Um, Art is bothering me really, and I needed to. Yeah, I needed to figure out a way to get some information out without having to talk all the time, or have them have access to me when I wasn't there and stuff like that. So, and that's also part of legacy. I'm like, let me out, because I was learning through all this process.
Mhm.
Remember, I started this, I didn't know anything, so it's
Yeah.
like, let me kind of figure out a way to document
Yeah.
this, and also have this information and be what wasn't readily available for me when I was looking to start this.
Hmm.
So it's like, I've learned these things. Let me put this down. So if anybody that's coming after me, they can have an easier time, right?
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of trial and error. I did it relatively fast because I was trying everything. So it seemed like I kind of always had. I didn't. It just it was a lot of trial and error. And then I wanted to be able to learn more things and kind of how the brain typically works. One second. Okay, sorry about that.
Hmm.
Um, so we no, what was I saying? I forgot.
About how the brain works and documenting.
Yes. Okay. So that's prime example, right? So anything that is not about like safety or survival, like anything that the brain feels like it doesn't need to have like readily available for you, it either files all the way in the back, or like it like tries to forget or anything, right? Um, but I wanted to not forget this stuff. So it was like, all right, let me put these down in these books as a way to be able to kind of go back and refer to anything. And then it was just like, I don't know, chapters, I guess, of the journey again. So it's both a way for me to document what I've learned and document my growth, and also be able to give shortcuts to other people. Because like I said, one of my first mentors really helped me to avoid some pitfalls and everything, and I just wanted to be able to do that as well, for other people. And so like, he was an artist his whole life, and he prolific in Newark. And when Basquiat came through Newark, he was in his crew, was doing tagging trains, all of them, and all of that with them. um so he was known for that, but he never had his own space. So it was things that I still had to learn on my own, that he kind of couldn't tell me or teach me from an experience perspective. So I made sure I put that in my writings and everything too. But it was really to, one, to get people to stop bothering me, but also to help become an authority in the space, because the root word for authority is author, right? So if I become an author, then that gives me authority in the space. So
Exactly. Exactly. People are like, oh, you want to be a speaker? You need a speaker. You need to write a book. So yeah, so that's something to pay attention to as well. If you have something to say, write it down and get it out there. So what if there was just like one thing you would tell an artist based off of everything that you learned? What is that one thing you would tell them and why?
hmm, one thing. Um, I mean, ultimately, I guess top line it would be to not give up.
Okay.
But if you just keep doing the same thing that's not working, that's also not necessarily the best thing either, and it could be extremely frustrating too. So, as you're persevering, we kind of need to always be adjusting,
Hmm.
you know. But top line, I would say don't give up.
Yeah, and what I like to say is pivot, right? Because like I said earlier, when you know where you're trying to get, you also have to know that there's different ways to get there. So if you go down that one street and it's blocked, then turn and go down a different street. But the point is to know where you want to get to and to keep going to get there.
Yeah, and in 2018, I said I wanted to be an art king, and at the time, I had no idea what that was. It just sounded good, and I said that probably for about a year, and actually got interviewed. Me and my gallery partner, and the title of the magazine that we was interviewed in, the title of the article was Black Art Kings, actually. But that was definitely heavily suggested by me. Kind of leaned on a little bit. I was like, yeah, you should put Black Art Kings. But I said I wanted to be that, and maybe for a year, I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't realize what that meant
Yeah,
until a year after, when somebody asked me, was like, "So what does that mean?" And I stopped and was like, hold up, let me figure that out. I don't know
right?
what that means." Um, and then I started, I guess, filling that in, and then
Mhm.
going along and down the journeys and everything like that. So, yeah, my first book came out in 2018 when I decided, I wanted to be an art king. I'm like, I need to have my name be, searchable, you know what I mean, around this art space and all that stuff again. So there was a lot of, factors into how I disseminated the information. Um, but it was, I didn't feel pressure initially to define what that was, but
Hmm.
when I said it, it sounded good.
Yeah.
And then kind of from there, I started to fill it out, and slowly but surely, it's finding a way to manifest. So,
Yep, because that's what I heard. I'm like, oh, you attracted and manifested that, right? And then also what it actually means for you, and then to be that and realize that you have been that. And some it works that way. Sometimes you're being something and then you're doing and whatever, and you're like, oh, here's a name to it and in association. So it happens that way as well.
mhm.
So let's kind of talk about the Harlem Fine Arts Show. So tell us about that. What does artist stewardship look like at the Harlem Fine Arts Show?
Well, the Harlem Fine Arts Show is the largest and longest running show in North America that focuses on artists from the diaspora. Um, it was started and founded. This is going to be the 18th show or the 19th show, coming up in February. It's every February,
Okay.
in New York City. And so, of course, it was started in originally in Harlem. It was a traveling show at first, so they have put on events in DC, in Chicago. I think they've been in Detroit a few times as well, Atlanta, North Carolina, stuff like that. Um, it is currently now only taking place at the Glass House, which is in Midtown Manhattan, because it kind of grew out of Harlem a little bit. So now we're making sure that people understand that Harlem is everywhere. It's really about an
Mhm.
energy. Like a couple things I've been doing have been around Centennial. So 100 years ago, we were right in the middle of the Renaissance. And while the Renaissance was going on in Harlem, it was going on other places as well, simultaneously. New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit, Newark. Um, Harlem, of course, was the hub because New York was the hub. So, um, but really making sure that that energy is everywhere. So we have about 100 different booths. I can't tell you how many different artists because there's galleries in there who represent multiple artists as well.
Okay.
But it is a 3-day event, in February 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And 2026 will be the next time it's happening. So we do about $500,000 of sales and art over that 3-day week, and a lot of collectors, panels, talks, food vendors. Like it's a really good time. Actually, just walking in the building and just seeing us, and all that
Mhm.
beauty just feels really good. Like your heart is full. Just looking around, you ain't got to take a step past the door. Like you get in there, you just like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, that's how they got me aboard in the situation. I actually got invited by one of the presenting gallerists, who wasn't going to be able to make a VIP opening event, and just asked me did I want to go. And I went up there and just got enamored, and then got recruited by the general manager. Next thing I know, kind of just being there, being in the space, enjoying myself, doing what it is that I do. And he noticed me, and we started conversations from there. So, but yeah, that's definitely part of the journey along becoming an art king.
I love that. And so you said yes, right? You were
Mhm.
positioned, you were in the right place at the right time, and you
Yep.
said yes. And that's something that I would tell people for years. I would say it was my adaptation of what Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Air and what Virgin and all the Virgin, what he would say, but basically say yes and then figure it out, right? And so
Hmm.
I had been a proponent of that for the longest. Say yes and then figure that thing out. And so I still do believe in that, like be positioned, especially I'm gonna say now, if you're going somewhere, like in somewhere and you love it and you might have some things that you want to accomplish, be ready to say yes. And then, figure it out how to make it happen. And often when it's in alignment, you don't have to figure anything out because it's already in alignment, right? You went there open for that thing, and then that thing manifest it for you. So I'm going to put myself in. Let's figure out something for me to do at this Harlem Fine Arts Show. So I'm going to leave that with you. We don't have to talk about it now, but I put it out there. But let's talk about the Newark Symphony Hall Centennial. So that's coming up. Is that in 2026 or?
Yeah, so the actual anniversary was in September 2025, but we're celebrating it all of 2026,
Okay.
so it's been there for 100 years. So from January to December, we're actually going to be opening a new space. We're going to be activating different salon talks and everything every month around the 100 years of legacy that Newark Symphony Hall has experienced, all the way from Marian Anderson performing in 1940, being the first Black person, being able to perform in there, operatic singer, just really going over the history and legacy of the impact and the people that have come through the hall over the years. All of the performers, Jimi Hendrix did the concert for Martin Luther King, the day after he passed. That was at Newark Symphony Hall, where he went on for like 3-4 hours or something like that. A lot of history has happened. So just celebrating and, reminding people of the legacy.
Oh, you know what? You have a busy 2026. Wow. So we make sure there's some self-care going on in there, okay? Because you have a lot going on. So where do you see the future of Black artpreneurship going?
Well, I mean, I was a little more excited about it before, the orange guy got in and
Mm.
started cutting a bunch of money for the arts. Like one of the first things he did when he came through the door. So now, I'm observing. I'm kind of just just moving to complete, all these many tasks you talked about that I got to do, and just watching to see, what's available, how things are moving, and getting in where I could fit in. That's pretty much what I'm on right now. I'm not even sure because I'm waiting to see who's still going to be left standing, at the end of the day. Thank God there's some people that are like I know Elon's ex-wife or whatever threw like a billion or something into the arts and stuff like that. Like there's people kind of doing stuff from the private sector.
Hmm.
I don't know how effective that's going to be and filling all the gaps, but I mean I'm really just observing right now. I don't know exactly where it's going to go. I can be
Yeah.
hopeful. Um, Collectors, they're still becoming more black collectors, so that's a good, trend.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm just really not making too many predictions at this moment. Just kind of being in my own lane and checking my boxes.
No, and and I hear you, right? Because I know I totally knew it was going to go a whole different way. So I feel you on the not making predictions, right? Just waiting and seeing, but keeping it moving. And the thing about it is we've been here before, right?
Mm.
This is how we're used to this. We thrive. We're resilient. We bounce back. Like we said, we just have to figure out another way to make it happen. May not be as big or splashy, but it will be intentional and it still get done on a level that it's supposed to at this time. So again, I created or building the Dream Lifestyle Collective for Black women 50 plus who are reclaiming their creativity and reinvention. So, what wisdom would you share with women in this season of their life?
Excuse me. Um, hmm. That there's I don't know if I want to say a niche, but there's um there's a market. You know, there's a market for what it is that you want to do. You might have to, do a little homework or maybe get some help in figuring out who is in that market. But you can use everything that you have to your advantage. So you can use your age to your advantage if you figure it out. If you don't like to speak a lot, you can use that to your advantage. You can write the books. I do a reel on Instagram where I'm giving information and I'm not talking, the words are popping up and I'm swiping them off the screen. I'm not saying anything. So it gives me an opportunity to still help people without having to speak and without having to give out a whole lot of information, because reading is not going to be as fast as talking. So I can give kind of concentrated, little pieces and everything, which can stretch things further. So like there's always a way for you to use both your strengths and your weaknesses to your advantage, or perceived weaknesses, I would say.
Yes.
But just be creative in not only your creativity, but in everything else around promoting your creativity.
I love that. And what I love about what you said is use it to your advantage, right? Because there
Hmm.
is an advantage with us being 50 plus. We're just starting to live. Like, I'm talking to different women and you think that they're like, oh, we're just sitting in back and watching TV all day. No, 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 no. We're living our best lives. And I want more of us to do that. And so that's why I put together this collective because earlier in the conversation when you were talking about travel, like that's the number one thing that I do. That's what just brings me joy. Travel, travel, travel. So anytime someone talks about a trip, having been somewhere like I'm in on that because that's just what I do and that's what brings me joy. But I had to learn that. And then when I learned that, then I started leaning into that. So let's, we're coming to to close. And so when you think about everything you've built, what do you hope your legacy says, right? We talked earlier about the headlines and about what people say after, what. what's one headline maybe you want someone to say about you?
Hmm. I don't know if I know that yet.
Okay.
Um,
It's we're still working on the dots
yeah,
or the
yeah,
dash.
yeah. We're still working on it. Um, yeah. Ultimately, what I do enjoy, what does fill me, and I guess kind of makes me blush, at least internally, is when people have memories of things um, that I might not have realized kind of had a certain amount of impact that I might have just, it could have been something that was so, menial to me, it didn't mean a lot, whatever, but it meant a lot to them. Um, I like when people make me aware of things like that and they tell stories and like, I remember you did this, for me back then, or you was the first, gallery I was in, which I put that on my CV and then that got me into this space. And then, then I was able to do this and stuff like that. Like I like, um, when people are telling stories and I'm kind of included, like it feels good to if somebody's blowing up to be like, yo, I knew them way back when, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Um, your local hometown heroes and everything that are famous now, or whatever. Like like in Newark, a bunch of people like, oh yeah, I know Michael B. Jordan. You know what I mean, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you don't know him personally. You just happen to be from the same cities and like that. But if you actually know him personally, if you actually his first play was a play you wrote, or it happened at your venue or things like that. Like being a part of that story. Like I like to be a part of the story. Like, oh, I was there when this happened, or I saw this in this person, so I went and did this with them, and type of things. Like I like stuff like that. So ultimately, I mean, I guess, yeah, is what I believe legacy is. Like people remembering how you touched their lives, you know. So yeah, I just want people to be like, he touched my life.
Yeah, I love that. Impact. That's
Hmm.
exactly what you're talking about is impact, and which is not surprising because again, in the beginning, you mentioned how you wanted to do things to give other people opportunities. So yes, you wanting, your legacy to be that, I was part of that person's story. I made a difference. I had impact. Absolutely, that's not a surprise. So specifically for Black women, what do you hope those who are listening or watching take from your journey?
Um, I mean, that whatever I was able to accomplish, you should be able to do at least three times over. Like I believe, is nothing more powerful than the Black women. I've always been supported by them throughout my whole life. I don't know what I would do without them. I know they typically more resourceful, and then even I find myself being. So again, if I can do it, I know it can be done by any Black woman. So make sure that you find alignment with what fulfills you, and figuring out how you're going to both serve other people and simultaneously fulfill yourself. And that'll lead you to figuring out what it is that you should be doing. But yeah, you got it done. Consider it done, Black woman.
All right, I love that. So, Dante, thank you for sharing your brilliance. And to everyone who's listening or watching, follow his work on IG at I am D Muse. He's on YouTube and LinkedIn, Dante T Muse. And if you're a Black woman 50 plus, ready to dream, design, and drive your next bold chapter, learn more about the Dream Lifestyle Collective at DaninoGarrett.com. And until next time, thank you, everybody. Bye, Dante.
All right.
This is not a commercial for The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe, the award-winning podcast now entering its 10th year and available wherever podcasts are listened to. No, this is a commercial for Mike Rowe's foundation, which has just set aside $10 million to help train the next generation of skilled workers. That money is available right now at microworks.org. It's waiting for anyone who wants to learn a skill that doesn't require a 4-year degree. Electricians, plumbers, linemen, welders, shipbuilders, HVAC techs. America is desperate for men and women with skills they don't teach in universities. And the MicroWorks Foundation is committed to helping train America's workforce for hundreds of thousands of AI-proof 6-figure jobs just waiting to be filled. Apply today for a work ethic scholarship at microworks.org or support our efforts with a donation of any size. We're closing America's skills gap one job at a time, and we could use your help at microworks.org, MIKEROWE works.org.